control of our own marine resources, because the European Union has a common fisheries policy, which means that our most valuable fisheries would become a common property of the Union as such. And this has been a sticking point in our negotiations with them or our talks with them. We have not applied for membership, and this is something that we would have to overcome before we could join the Union, although we seem to be running out of options. I mentioned earlier that we have a very volatile national currency called the krona. And we have the greatest difficulty now in planning our economic recovery with a currency like that, a currency that is so small and so volatile. And it seems to more and more people in my country that we should join the European Currency Union. In order to join the European Currency Union, you need to join the Union. It is quite possible that we may apply for membership in the European Union come next year, although I can't really tell for certain because politics in our country seems to be lagging a little bit behind the public mood. It's very difficult to form a majority government in Iceland that would put the question of European Union membership on its agenda.
Okay, what about the United States and Canada, which are also fairly close neighbors on the other side of the Atlantic? What is your relationship with Canada, considering the fact that there is a link between you and Canada, which is ice, which is the Arctic, and the fact that the Arctic is melting? Right. And so the Northern Passage, the whole fisheries, the whole structure of Iceland is affected by global warming and all that is happening in the Northern Atlantic and the Arctic seas.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I suppose we tend to think of ourselves as a European country, but it all depends. We are either, the last country of Europe to be settled, or the first North European country to see Europeans. And I say that because Iceland, from a sort of a geological point of view, straddles this transatlantic ridge, where two tectonic plates come together, the European plate and the North American plate. So geologically speaking, we belong to both North America and Europe. And we like to see that as a kind of a metaphor also for our foreign policy, because we have found it very difficult to make a choice. We want to enjoy the best of both worlds. And this is why we have typically worked very closely with the European Union when it comes to trade and commerce, but with the United States and the countries of North America when it comes to security and defense. We have a bilateral defense agreement with the United States, for instance. We have no such arrangement with any of the countries in the European Union. So I think that more or less defines our predicament today. The largest Icelandic ethnic community living abroad is in Canada, mainly in Manitoba, where you probably have Icelanders more numerous than in our own country. And we have close relations with Canada, of course, but closer still with the United States, I have to say.
Closer than the United States?
Closer ties with the United States than Canada.
Oh, are there many Icelanders in the United States?
Proportionally speaking, yes. I think a large number of students going abroad, especially to seek third-level education, come to the United States and have been doing that for a number of years.
I see. We are going to open this for questions from the floor, but before that, can you think of three positives, three good things about Iceland and three negatives about Iceland? Tell us 3 good things about Iceland and 3 bad things about Iceland.
I need to be very careful here, huh? Well, I like the fact that we are a small country, and I'll tell you why. It's not because, you know, small is beautiful or anything like that. It's just because in a small country like ours, it is much easier sometimes to coordinate action and to get things done. You don't have to clear things with as many people. You can get decisions quickly when something needs to be done. That is, I think, an advantage of being a small country. Another thing I like about our country is our health system. We offer universal health coverage to all individuals living in Iceland. It doesn't matter whether you can afford medical services or not, you're entitled to it. That's something we are very proud of. We have built up a very solid welfare system in our country. It's costly, of course, but we take care of everybody, and we are proud of that. A third point I would mention would be the way we like to think that we give equal opportunity to women. Gender equality, as it is called nowadays. We offer equal opportunities for men and women. And this is something that is deeply ingrained in our culture. We had the first woman head of state for a long time in the 80s. And we now have our first woman prime minister in Iceland. And we have a government where men and women share equal responsibilities. We have 5 men and 5 women in the government. And this is something we like, and it has worked out very well. So these are 3 things I obviously like about Iceland. I don't know whether you would like it, but I like it.
I'm a Frenchman. I like women very much.
And then if there are any things I don't like, well, you know, being small has its advantages, as I said, but also disadvantages. You know, when you live in a small country, you sometimes find it difficult to be, impartial and to take an objective look. You tend to know everybody, and you work through networks of friends and people you know, and that can complicate things sometimes. And the other things that I think may be problematic for a country like mine are derived from being a small country. It's very difficult for a small country like mine, for instance, to take good care of its national defense. And that was particularly the case during the Cold War. We happened to live on a piece of very valuable real estate when it comes to geostrategy. We live in a place in the world where our neighbors would probably never suffer us to become neutral. That was certainly the case during the Cold War. And the demands that were placed on Iceland in terms of security and defense were greater, far greater than what we could have taken care of ourselves. That's why it served us so well to have a bilateral defense agreement with the United States, for instance. So smallness is a drawback when you live in a country like Iceland and need to take care of your security. Another thing that I think is problematic for a small country like mine, we talked earlier about the need to work with developing countries to help them develop their own resources in a sustainable way. Now, we need to do more of that, but if you are a small country and you are geographically remote, it is difficult for you, and it's very costly. And we regret that we are not able to do more in terms of assisting other countries in the world developing the resources the way we have done.